people in this way.
But the question is, like, why us? Why has the human animal been able to do this and no other animal has done anything even remotely similar?
Well, I think that goes back to my advisor's insight. The idea that once human beings become their own primary competitor, the primary dictator of the success of a population is how it does against another population that is similarly equipped. That arms race produces incredible problem-solving capability. It's why our craniums were expanded as they were, why our raw processing power is so large compared to our next nearest relative. It's that capacity which then allowed human beings to become regular niche-switching creatures.
But don't other animals compete with other animals?
Yeah, they compete, but they don't have most animals have many arbiters of their success, right? They have, biotic arbiters, competing species. They've got members of their own species. They've got abiotic factors such as, climate and weather. And those factors mean that there are a multiplicity of hostile forces. For human beings, we became our own primary hostile force, and that created the arms race. So one population against another, can you outthink your competitors?
And then the accelerants are language and tools.
Once you get to language, this thing catches fire.
And that leads to adaptations of the physical body.
Well, it feeds back into it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't need the armaments, for example.
It's just stunning that no other species out of all the species that exist on this planet has done anything even remotely similar. Even on a pathway.
Well, I mean, there are others that have many of the rudiments,
Like dolphins?
Yeah. Heather and I talk about the usual suspects. You've got dolphins, including orcas. You've got wolves. You've got other great apes. You've got crows, parrots. There are a lot of creatures that have some of the magic that human beings have, but none of them have all of the components.
So this is why intelligent design people get kind of tripped up by all this. Because, right, they say, explain us. There's something else working here. There's some magic. There's some higher power.
Well, and
maybe that is a higher power. Maybe that other mechanism is something special.
Well, it is something special, to be sure. The couple things that need to be said here are, A, I am sympathetic to the intelligent design folks, though I do not believe they are on the right track. I'm open to a universe with intelligence behind it, but I've seen no evidence of that universe myself. I'm open to it. If it happens, I will look at it. But I believe this can all be explained in Darwinian terms. And more to the point, I would highlight the fact that they don't really have a competing explanation. So the fundamental principle of reason is parsimony. That the simplest explanation, we would typically say the simplest explanation tends to be right. In my opinion, if we had all of the information, the simplest explanation would always be right. It would be a more reliable law. But in general, the simplest explanation tends to be right. If you take the intelligent design folks and you extrapolate from what they seem to be suggesting, they do not escape a necessity for a Darwinian explanation. Even if the creatures of Earth were designed on a drawing board by a creature that wanted to make them, that creature has to have come from somewhere. And the only explanation that has ever been proposed for where such a creature could have come from is Darwinian evolution. So, to me, the problem with intelligent design, the most fundamental one, is that even if it were true, you've basically solved the problem of explaining Earth's creatures at a cost that is 1,000,000 times worse in terms of parsimony. If it's hard to explain a tiger through Darwinian processes, it is that much harder yet to explain a tiger designer. So the point is, sooner or later, you're going to reach for Darwinism because there's literally no competitor. There's nothing else anyone has ever said that could even in principle produce living creatures. So,
And this is coming from a perspective of someone who understands evolutionary biology rather than someone who's coming from a theological perspective,
right.
where they're looking for an intelligent design without understanding that these mechanisms have essentially been mapped other than this one.
Yeah. I mean, it is, we humans are not built to understand evolution because in general it's not very useful to understand it. So our minds are not structured this way.